Good morning. How is everybody doing? If you're finding me for the first time, my name is Penny. I come here 4 to 5 days a week. My goal is to inspire you, and I welcome you to my personal space. Hope you can listen and learn something by the end of this talk, so that way you can live a life with purpose. Yeah, my hair has grown. Do you guys remember when I started this Facebook page here 2 years ago? My hair was short, now it's grown. So good morning. So when you come in, please share this video, invite your friends, and I like Facebook, or rather the social media platforms that have allowed us regular people to be able to talk to regular people online and share our personal stories and share what we've learned along the way. And for us who are older, we can tell you what we've learned and what we'll recommend. You always have to know what you could have done different, and you can't know what you could have done different if you don't look back and see where you have come from, so that way you can know where you're going. So you have to kind of set your destination. You have to kind of know if you want to go to India, Jamaica, Italy. You just have to know where you're going. Otherwise, you're not going to go anywhere. So my vision is clear. And if you're finding me for the first time, we were doing this book in July, and I fell sick and I missed out about 12 days, and now we are back to finish it before we go to our next book. Alice, how are you? So yesterday we talked about getting married. A lot of you don't even think about getting married. You just move in with people, or you just get pregnant, or whatever reasons you find yourself living with somebody of the opposite sex, and then before you know it, you start calling those people my husband, my wife. I feel sorry for you. If you're calling someone your wife, and if you're calling somebody your husband, and you're not legally married, that's a sign of having low self-esteem. There is no need to call yourself somebody's wife. There is no need to call yourself somebody's husband when you've not legally committed yourself to that person. I know the African culture dictates that once you move in with someone, you are the wife. Once you move in with someone, you are the husband. But times have changed, and we have to move away from those times of playing roles that are not the actual roles that you are supposed to be playing. And with time, that's how things go wrong. So this book, the budgeting book, included getting married, and now we are going to talk about buying a house and then having children. Some of us might not do things in the order that the book has put it, but for some of you who don't have children, or some of you who are not married and you've been following me, please follow this. At 50 years old, I'll tell you, I will do this over and over, because you know what, we are all human. If you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. That's like planning, you know what, I'm going to have 4 kids and then I'll raise them by myself. The father doesn't need to be there. Or I want to have 4 children, I want to raise them, I don't want the mother there. You're planning to fail ahead of time. So if you don't plan ahead of time, you're going to plan to fail. So today we are talking about buying a house. So for those of you who are not able to do this, but if you're able to do this, they are telling you at least have shelter for your children. Okay, they're talking about a home. Where do you ask yourself? You can take these notes. Ask yourself, with your new spouse, where do you want to live? Choose a location. Do you want to live in a city? Do you want to live up country? Do you want to live in a development? Do you want to live in a single home? Where do you want to live? That is something that you should look at your partner and make that decision. We are not talking about the house you owned before you married. You're not talking about the house you're inheriting from your parents. As a husband and wife, you need to look at each other and decide where do we want to live. Now, the second step, they're saying, try to put money aside so you can put money down for your house. They recommend in this book that you come up with 20% of the house total price of the house. If the house is 100,000, you need to come up with 20%. That's what they are telling you to be ready. When you're going to buy a house, I'm just going to highlight the things that they are saying that are important. Be prepared to pay closing costs. There is something called closing costs. Some of you save up, or you've never thought about the process, what process people go through to buy a house, okay? You need to have that closing cost. You need to have legal fee for the lawyer. You need to have mortgage taxes. You need to have transfer taxes. Okay, you need to have title insurance. You need to have recording insurance, recording fees. Okay, because the cost of the county clerk to record your deed and transfer it. Okay, you need to be prepared to pay your property taxes. It's not just the price of the house. If your house is 200,000, out of that, sometimes the property tax is 3%. Sometimes the tax is 5%. So before you buy a house, look at the property taxes in that area. I don't know if this is applicable in Kenya or in Africa and the other parts of the world, but check the property tax. And then you need to be prepared to pay your realtor, whoever is helping you find the house. Okay. And then they are telling you, if you get those mortgages, there is fixed mortgages and there is flex mortgages, where your mortgage goes according to how the market is going. And so some of my friends that lost their homes in 2018, it's because they had those kind of mortgages where when the economy is bad, when the economy is good, those mortgages are not good. I prefer to have a fixed mortgage, because you know what, I know what I'm getting into. And try to look, they're telling you, try to get the lowest interest rates. Don't just buy a house at a very high rate. And how you do that is by building your credit, which in Kenya, I still don't know how they do it, or Africa, but in America, you have to have good credit. You have to show that you know how to borrow and return. Before you lock yourself into a mortgage, make sure you are getting a good interest, because otherwise you're going to be paying the people who will be sleeping money every month. So when you pay into the mortgage, very little money is going to go into the mortgage, because the interest is going. So depending on the interest that you take, that's how much you have to look at the numbers. How much are they taking into the house? How much are they taking into the interest? Okay. Plan on making repairs to the house. Let me tell you, once you own a house, when anything breaks in that house, it's your responsibility. There's one time, I don't remember what year it was, I was planning to take my children to Jamaica. I've never taken my children to an island. So we said, you know what, we are going to go to Jamaica this time. So looking at the budget was looking about 12K, around 12K to 15K. Because now we were thinking, although now I know Jamaica could have been cheaper, but we are talking about a family of 7, including my mom. As soon as we are starting to think to go buy those tickets and start looking, the heat of the house broke, literally. The system failed completely. I'd been in that house maybe 15 or 16 years. The whole system shut down. When I started doing the estimates, calling people to come and look at the heating system, remember it's winter. When I called around and I'm trying to get the rates, you know how much it was? It was the cheapest I could get was $13,000. Real money, $13,000. The whole system broke. So if you're buying a house, it's not just the shell. You're paying property taxes, and anything can be breaking in that house. Okay? The other thing you need to also think about is the climate where you live. The houses can catch fire. The wind can take your house. You have to be ready for the natural disasters if you're moving to a place where the natural disasters usually happen. Look at the age of the house and the condition before you commit into that house. Okay? Leave room for upkeep and expenses. Okay? Pest control, yard maintenance, security system. Those are the things that they are saying that you're supposed to get ready for before you commit into a house. I wanted to tie this into the having of the children. They move next to having of the children. And I want to speak as someone who has children. And I want to speak as someone who has gone through the process of raising children. I also want to speak as a sibling. My father had 21 children. I'm number 18. And I had 17 people ahead of me to know what I needed to do when it came to having children. Then I have, 4 sisters behind me. But I'm telling you, whatever I'm about to say is up to you. It doesn't work for everybody. But you know what? It is very, very good to be mindful. Okay? Now, I have been with my husband for 29 years, just in case you didn't know. we are raising 4 children. The oldest child is 25, the second child is 22, the third child is 19, the fourth child is 12. And we have another son in Kenya that we adopted in 2007. He's 22. So we have 5 children in total that we have to provide for 100%. Number one thing I'll tell you, be ready to have children. I was aware that children were not just toys. I thank God that I was aware. It is not easy to have children. That's why I waited 4 good years to have my children with my husband, because you know what? I was 21 when I met him. I was too young. Our primary goal at the time when we met was to party, to smoke, to hang out, to just have a good time. Because at that age, that's what you're supposed to do. Between 21 and 25, to me, it's the age, even if you're not a smoker, even if you're not a drinker, even if you're not a nightclub person, that is the time to even enjoy your spouse. Because let me tell you, once the children come, there is nothing like enjoying a spouse. Somebody can tell you can enjoy your spouse, but where are you leaving that crying baby to go and enjoy your spouse? There is nothing like enjoying your spouse once you bring those children. You will, but it has to be planned. Enjoying of your spouse, you have to have someone to watch those children. Write it down. Be ready to have children. Number 2, look at your finances. How much money do you plan to make, or do you have before you actually conceive and have that child? And again, going back to me, I was in the generation that we had options. We just did not get pregnant. I wanted to have all the children during the summer, and I had all my children during the summer. But I didn't just have the children just by myself. I needed to notify my husband that next month or next year we are conceiving. We, not I, we. Notify your partner, notify your husband, notify the other person that you want a child. Even there are men who do that, who force women to have children. When I say force, meaning the woman has told you, no, we are not safe, we cannot have unprotected sex, but the man insists because he wants a child. You need to decide when to have children, because you know what? You can. We live in times where you can decide when to have children. I did not want to have birthdays when it's snowing. I had that choice, and I thank God I was fertile enough to plan all my pregnancies. So I wanted my children to enjoy their birthdays when the weather is good. Because I wasn't planning to move from New Jersey, I wanted to stay in New Jersey. And that puts me to the next point after finances. Look at the family that you're having children with. Don't just have children with people. I'm 100% sure my husband did not do his homework about my family. But I did homework about his family, because I was aware of looking at the background. Because you know what? Once he started finding out who we are, he was kind of shocked, drawn back. But again, we found that we had some things in common. So like similar things of my father, similar things of his father, we were kind of on the same page. And the huge difference, his father was more of a spiritual leader and my father was more of a businessman. But we grew up, with the similar values. So we had a lot in common. Be careful who you are having children with, because some things are genetic. You can't just change a family. And once you have children and you want to go have a cup of coffee, you want to leave these children with who? Who are you leaving these children with? Your sister-in-law? Your brother-in-law? Who is helping raise your children? Because another topic I want to talk about another time. Once you have children, help your children to have aunties and uncles they can talk to. And most of the time, it's good that they are your sisters and your brothers, or your husband, your spouse's sisters and brothers, because you share the same values. I want my children to talk to my sisters. I want my children to talk to my husband's sisters and brothers, because you know what? We share the same values. If you don't have, like my friend Becky does not have a sibling, then you need to create those aunties and uncles for your children to talk to. There's a stage that children go through and they don't want to talk to their parents because they don't want to tell you some truth. Some truth can only be told to an auntie or an uncle. Prepare the aunties and uncles that you want your children to grow up with, so that way when they go through that stage, they can talk to them. And you have to be very, very intentional. Even Jesus, remember what happened? He disappeared from his parents and they looked for him, they couldn't find him. From age 13 to 25, you must be losing your children somewhere. Your children will be wandering somewhere. You're going to look for them. It is good that somebody can see them, your husband's sister, your wife's sister, your friend who's an auntie. It is good for somebody to see your children who the children know, so they can talk to them and tell them, Mommy is looking for you, go back home. Because they'll be willing to listen to that person. That's another topic for another day. Now, again, number 4, the education, taking your children to school. Now, we want to talk a little bit about birth order. I can't even imagine how some parents have children. If you look at the oldest children and the youngest children, back in Africa, you have to have so many kids because the older ones will take care of the little kids. You don't want to know how many families have been broken because the oldest child was given so many responsibilities of his parents or her parents who had so many children. So this oldest child starts acting like a parent even when he's not a parent. And when he actually becomes a father, when he actually becomes a husband, he is overwhelmed with raising and educating his siblings. If you're married to such a person, I am so sorry. But birth order is real, which again is my son, who's now 25. I give him the responsibility of dropping and picking my other son. So birth order, whether you like it, whether you're financially stable, whether you're present, the oldest child is always going to be burdened to help with the youngest kids. But don't have children and burden your children to babysit your children. These children nowadays, they don't want to babysit your little crying with mucus children. Take your children to the daycare. Some siblings have hurt their siblings because those are not their children. Don't have children and burden your oldest children with the responsibility of educating them and paying their tuition and doing all these responsibilities. That used to be something our parents did, and don't do it. Okay? Now, if you're not prepared financially and you get a child with special needs, you need to know what you plan to do. One of you might stop working. If you don't have a husband, if you don't have a wife, it might take you to pay someone to take care of a special need child. And children, you don't know how they're coming. If you have a child that needs care one-on-one, you have to be present. If you're not going to be present, you need to have finances to be able to take care of this special need child. So as a husband and wife, as you're planning to have children, be prepared for your children to even fall and have an accident. Be prepared for the child to be sick. At the time of health and wellness, when something happens to your children, you need to know what plan you have. That is why an emergency fund is something good to have. And not even that, having life insurance. Something I deeply regret that I wish I knew long time ago, somebody told me, to buy life insurance with living benefits. So that way, you don't die, but you are sick, but you have children. So you are able to tap into that life insurance and borrow and take care of your children until your health is okay. So if you don't have life insurance, I'm asking you to inbox me with living benefits. If it's in Kenya, we'll help you find someone. But if you have children and you've accepted with your spouse, you've come into an agreement that you're signing this contract of having children, you need life insurance. Because if you drop dead, we don't want to have all these orphan children out here whose parents left nothing to them. It is very, very important. Yes. Then the next one, you need to be aware how you're going to split chores once the children come. A lot of marriages are breaking because, especially the men just want to, you're working both 40 hours, you come home, your husband is busy watching TV, and now you come home, you go straight into the shower, you take a shower, you're in the kitchen, and sometimes you're in the kitchen and you're doing homework. You need to decide who's doing what chores. For me, in the early stages of my pregnancy, the first child, I didn't work because I was defeated. So you can imagine, I abandoned my husband to provide 100%. I was just home until I delivered the baby, and I was home for another year. I didn't go to work until my son was almost going to a year because I just didn't want to leave the baby. The second baby, I worked through the pregnancy, but I couldn't do the chores because pregnancy just overwhelms me. The third child, At 5 months, I could not even walk. So again, I stopped working at 5 months. The housework, the financial needs that come with being pregnant, or the sickness. The fourth child, the child was sitting on the nerve. Literally, the baby was on one of my nerves. So I was just helpless. And that's why I still have a lot of respect for single mothers or women who go through pregnancy by yourself. It is not the easiest thing. And it's good that you prepare, to be a single mom and have a child, knowing that, once the man leaves or once something happens, you have that life insurance, or you have where you can borrow from with the living benefit, or you have something that can protect you. You just need to psychologically be ready to raise and provide for your children single-handedly. When we went into buying a home, something I'll mention to you people who are going into marriages or into relationships, we bought a home that my income could take care of. Although my husband was making more money, but we wanted a home that I'm able to afford. My paycheck can afford, my 2 weeks paycheck can pay the mortgage, and my 2 weeks paycheck can give us food. And then after that, if anything happens, we'll figure out what happens. That is something I learned in a class. Buy a home with a single income, just in case the other person is not able to provide. Those are things that you need to put in mind. And something I forgot about family background. Before you have children with someone, mental health is real. Some things run in families. It doesn't matter what you're going to do. Once you have those children who have all this, the history of ABCD, you have to deal with that. You need to be ready for that. And finally, out of your busy schedules, out of whatever you do, your career, once you produce children and they are out, you need to create time for your children. It is the biggest challenge that I saw with my father, and I've seen the effects it has had on my siblings. And I'm aware of it because I craved my dad. I loved my dad. I wanted my dad so much. But my dad was never available even one day. In fact, there was no time I remember that I spent with my father. There is none. And that is terrible. Because you know what? Yes, you're providing financial support. Yes, you've paid the school fees. Yes, you've given me shelter. But who are you, Dad? How am I going to know who Dad was if Dad cannot sit with me and even have a conversation with me? I went through a whole life, because I'm a talker, without spending time with my father. So as you provide and you're making these children, if you've decided you can afford 4 children, you can afford 3 children, make sure you can also afford the time, because you need to spend time with these children. Mental health is real. Your childhood follows you for the rest of your life. It is very few of us, and when I say of us, I struggle to be normal, because some of the things I went through as a child, they were so traumatic that you look back, you're like, what was that? But you managed to say, you know what? At 18, I had a decision to choose my path. I'm not going to blame my parents for whatever choices they made. They made the choices. Here I am. Let me make my good choices for myself. And guess what? Now that I'm raising our 5 children, they're seeing things that I do that they don't like, because I have values from a different country. I have standards of operations from a different country. I have policies and procedures to be followed from a different country. My expectations for our children are from another country. My expectations for our children in my house are not the same like their friends. And they are not okay with that. So I'm also becoming that parent, and my children are looking at me. They tell me they are not going to be me. And I tell them that is fine. I don't want them to be me. I want them, once they turn 18 and go to college, finish college, come and live with me in my house for 2 years, save up their money, get their own house, start having children. That is if they choose to have children. Because I believe now children are not easy to be brought up. So if you plan to have them, plan well. Because your children will always find fault in you because of the generational gap that is always going to be there, and your environment where you came from. Because when I tell our kids that, oh, this and that, all my rules and everything, their friends are like, why are your parents like that? We are not from here. We moved here, but we moved here with some of our culture, some of our traditions, and we are trying to meet our children halfway, but we won't meet them all the way. And I give them an example of lipstick. When we were growing up, lipstick was for prostitutes only. The day my mother found me with lipstick, she asked me if I wanted to be a prostitute. Trousers were only for men. Now everybody wears trousers, including my own mother. She had to wear trousers because of the weather. There are things we were not allowed to do because they were just not allowed. But it's because of the environment we were in and the times we were living in. And it's good to have those standards for your children. Don't make it so easy for them so they can run you over with things they don't even exist. Italians still hold on to their Italian whatever. Spanish people, I see them still holding on to their Spanish stuff. It's only us Africans who come here and just throw our culture and tradition like that. Pick the ones that are, age appropriate. Pick the ones that you want your children to know, especially when it comes to your values. Men, create time so you can pass on your values to your children. Don't just work Monday through Friday, come home, change the channel of the TV, and on the weekend get drunk. Spend time with those children. Go to a golf course with those children. Go shoot hoops with those children. Go take a walk with those children. The men, don't just leave us with the children. Spend time with your children so they can know who you are. Do something, an activity that is going to bring you guys together, so that way the children can know that, my father grew up from this place, my mother grew up from this place, this is how my parents were, and this is how we are where we are now. Because if your children don't know where you are, you will not know where you're going. And I come from a good place. I've taken 20 minutes of your time. I come here to inspire you. I invite you into my personal space. This is my personal, literally personal space. My notes, things that I'm learning. And I hope that you can listen and learn one or two things that is going to improve your life and give you a better, kind of an understanding of where you want to go with your life. So that way you can set goals. That way you can set your destination where you want to go. Unless you've flown first class, don't say first class means nothing. Unless you become a millionaire, don't say being a millionaire means nothing. You need to get there and find out what's there and then compare the two. Because a mentor needs a mentor, a coach needs a coach, and we can all learn from somebody. You cannot be living a life where you're thinking you have it together. You don't have it together. We share because some of the things we've lived and we've learned how we should have done better before. Now, the next generation, we are here for you. We want you to live a life with purpose. And a life with purpose is a life that you create self-awareness. It's a life that you're intentional. It's a life that you plan your things. Where you are saying, I plan to do this. Is where you have goals. Is where you have a sense of belonging. That's when you can live a life with purpose. But if you wake up every day and you just don't even know where you're going, you're always going to wobble. The journey is long. We come here to help you make your journey as comfortable as it can, so you don't have to repeat the same mistakes we made before. Cheers. God bless you. Share this video. Go to our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's right there. And thanks for watching. For those of you who've been watching me since we started the page, I appreciate you. If you are a new founder, you just found me today, you're welcome. If you're here and you've never thought of, liking or sharing my video, please do that for the first time, because I learn also from others by pushing my page, or I do my business through my page, and your sharing means so much to me. Thank you so much and have a beautiful Tuesday.